Kevin Gausman is so back. We'll break down his shutout, preview week 26, and much more on a Kokomo Friday.
Alcantara, Soroka, you look so good in polka. Peralta, Manoa, bounce back for Aarondola. Giolito, Castillo, Yoshida, Mosu,
Tocano and Fado, value so high, but ADP so low. Frank Love's hit some kind of Joe. Now let's get on with the show.
Happy Kokomo Friday and welcome in to Fantasy Baseball today on September 12th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. Today on the show, Kevin Gausman threw a 2-hit shutout, and he has been amazing in the second half. How will Rays hitters fare moving back to Tropicana Field next season? I wanted to get to that yesterday, so we'll talk about that a little bit later on today. We'll preview week 26, the second to last week of the season. Here we are, Scott.
Yes. Maybe people's championship game. A lot of people don't do the last week.
It's been crunch time, but man, even more so now. And Scotty doesn't know. Yes.
Bring
it back.
I never know.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate it.
Let's
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious!
All right, Scott, there's only one place to start. Kevin Gausman.
The Gausman, he wrapped it up here against not quite wrapped up a good season, but he's been on a great stretch and threw a complete game shutout here against the Astros. I understand every official shutout is a complete game. Still, I feel the need to stress it because it is so rare that somebody goes 9. Gausman did it. 2 hits allowed, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. And this continues a trend. It's difficult to say exactly when the trend began. Really, Gausman's season has just kept getting better and better and better. So the further you go back, the ERA is a little higher. The shorter you go back, it gets lower and lower. Anyway, last 10 starts for Kevin Gausman, a 2.25 ERA, a .75 WHIP, and just shy of a strikeout per inning. Now, Gausman was a guy who I think most everybody thought coming into the year was sinking like a rock. Like he was clearly in the last days of him being a useful fantasy option. And you didn't want to get caught holding the bag when he completely dropped off the cliff. And at the start of the year, like I said, it kept getting better and better. So at the start, it seemed like he may have dropped off that cliff. But what happened around mid-May is he took a little off the splitter and it started getting its old vertical break back. If you look year by year at Kevin Gausman, the splitter's, of course, always been the key pitch for him. But that vertical break on that splitter last year when he first took a dip, it was 31 inches of vertical drop. The year before that, when he was still like ace level, it was 34 inches. The year before that, it was 33 inches. No, I'm sorry. It was 32. It was 33. The year before that, it was 37 inches. And then it was, usually around 37 inches for a stretch of a few years there for Kevin Gausman. So last year was the outlier in terms of that splitter only having 31 inches of vertical drop. Well, when he took a little off that splitter in mid-May, it got back to 34 inches. It got back to really his best mark since, or his highest mark since 2021. And that kind of signals the turnaround for Gausman. He got the old movement back on that splitter, and he's been pretty much great ever since, certainly here recently. And so it's another case of a guy who we were writing off because of age, showing that, we're too quick to write him off. Now, is he an ace like he was in his first 2 years in Toronto, in his 2 years in San Francisco? Well, no, he's not getting strikeouts quite at that rate. Like I said, it's just under 1 per inning, even during this awesome 10-start stretch. At his best, it was like 10.5, 11.5 per 9. So he's not doing that anymore. But because of how much he leans on that splitter, Kevin Gausman is, he's limiting damage and getting enough strikeouts and working deep into games and just not quite an ace, but like the next best thing. I have him as, I think I have him around 30th in my starting pitcher rankings now, which I wouldn't have imagined coming in. He's really done a lot to rehabilitate his fantasy standing. Now he will be 35 next year. So how much do we want to trust in that? Well, I think we'll probably see Kevin Gausman faded again in drafts, but I will be less reluctant to accept a discount if there is one this year, I would say, or next year, I would say.
Yeah, just a big bounce back season here for Kevin Gausman. And I like to remind people, last year he started the season with that shoulder injury, and perhaps it just kind of lingered because he never looked quite like himself. And this year, while the first half was a little bit shakier, he certainly looks like he's back to form now here in the second half. Is it a hot streak? Is it just because, all right, that splitter is on, and, splitters can be very fickle pitches, and when they're on, you can get a run like this. But, we've seen stretches where Gausman splitter and anyone's splitter, I mean, it's just a inherently volatile pitch. It can lead to, some kind of erratic performance, but he has certainly bounced back in a big way this year. I do think the whip is a little bit fluky. Even at his best, he was not a great whip pitcher. And this season, his BABIP is down to 239, which is a career best by far. So I'm not sure I would expect that to maintain again next season. I think he's probably more like, even if he's really good, he's probably in that 110 to 115 whip range for next year. But he certainly has bounced back and showing no real signs of decline. So even at 35 years old, I think he'll be a serviceable pitcher once again next season. Scott, let me throw a fill in the blank your way. You have muted yourself. So if you've been trying to talk to me, I haven't heard any of it.
I don't remember muting myself, so that's weird.
You pulled a Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say that the BABIP, the career low BABIP, probably coincides with the career high fly ball rate. Wouldn't that make sense? You get more outs on fly balls than ground balls. I don't know if you noticed, I caught myself. I was talking about how Kevin Gausman leaning on the splitter so much. I was about to say gets a lot of ground balls. I was looking him up in the moment of saying that and his ground ball rate is surprisingly low this year.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to explain the increase in fly balls, but I think it's helped with the hit prevention as it usually does.
That is fair. His fly ball rate entering today was 43%, and last year it was 42%. So not a huge difference. And last year his BABIP was 281, and again this year it's 239.
But most of his career, it's been about 35%. So it's really the last 2 years are the only years the fly ball rate's been over 40.
I still do think there has been some level of luck in the BABIP department here for Kevin Gausman. Fill in the blank, Scott. He will be drafted as a top blank starting pitcher next year. Not where you would draft him or where you will rank him, but where do you think, just like when everything kind of shakes out ADP, the consensus kind of groupthink, Kevin Gausman drafted as a top blank SP next season?
I'm gonna say, what am I gonna say? 30. I'll say 36.
Yeah, I was gonna say 40. So I think we're kind of in lockstep there with Kevin Gausman. Let's talk about my player of the night, Bryce Miller, who set a new career high in strikeouts against the Angels. 11 strikeouts here, but still kind of a mixed outing. 5 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 0 walks. So the whip is okay, but 4 earned runs and 2 more homers allowed. 21 whiffs on 99 pitches, 14 on the fastball, 6 on the splitter. He really just leaned into those 2 pitches and they were great, but he continues to give up a ton of hard contact since returning. 5 starts since coming back. He has a 95 mile per hour average exit velocity against, 5.33 ERA, and 9 homers allowed in just 5 starts. So as impressive as the whiffs were here, the strikeouts, career high, it's congrats, Bryce Miller. There still is concern here. just with everything else, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the fact he did this against the most strikeout-prone team in baseball, I think, puts a different spin on it for Bryce Miller. He served up the 2 home runs. He really faded his sinker, which maybe contributed to him giving up more home runs. Obviously, a sinker is intended to put the ball on the ground. Yeah, it's hard to know whether to take this as a good sign for Bryce Miller or to just toss it out completely, because I'm not sure if he took the same approach against a different team, it would go nearly as well. For what it's worth, Bryce Miller is scheduled to face the Royals next week, which is a good matchup. And so does this put him in the streamer category? I currently have him outside of the top 10 sleepers for next week, but I could be convinced to do it. We'll talk about them later in the show and see if Bryce Miller against the Royals deserves to go ahead of any of them.
Why am I even here, Scott? You just asked the question I was going to ask, and then you answered your own question. So
I didn't answer my own question, though. I delayed the answer.
You kind of, right? It was
I chickened out.
Yeah. I think he's in play for that start. I think in deeper leagues, if you held on to him, I have him in Tout Wars. It's a 15-team league. I'm going to consider starting him at the Royals because, 29th in WOBA last 14 days, and he just, have mostly been a bad offense all season. So, yeah, I think he's in the mix, but, he's getting whiffs, at least in this start, not in the previous starts. He's given up a lot of hard contact, though. So, it's
only one time in 5 starts since returning from the IL. 1 in 5 has he gone 6 innings.
Yeah, and this was the only start that he had more than 4 strikeouts.
Yeah,
since returning too. So,
keep
all those things in mind. Shout out to Aaron Judge, my guy Scott, 3 for 4 with 2 homers in this game. He tied Joe DiMaggio, 4th all time on the Yankees home run list. So, not many more games before I'm sure he passes Joe DiMaggio. But putting the finishing touches on a big season here for Judge. Obviously could have been much bigger if we didn't have that, elbow, forearm thing going on. But yeah, still right in that MVP conversation. Scott, season ends today. Who's your pick? Is it Big Dumpa or Aaron
my
Judge?
pick? If I had a vote, it would be Aaron Judge, hands down.
Ooh, yes, I love it.
Hands down, be faster your last. That's what it would be. But if you're asking me to predict who everyone else is going to vote for, it may still be Aaron Judge, but I think it's going to be close between him and Cal Raleigh, and it's possible Raleigh would edge him out just because of the defensive value he brings. Like he got the award for best defender regardless of position last year. Mm-hmm. And then he's gone on the next year to have a historic season for a catcher offensively. Yeah. So I could see him getting a lot of support.
And this is not me hating on Cal Raleigh. I mean, selfishly as a Yankee fan, I want Aaron Judge to win the MVP, but I think Cal Raleigh is obviously very deserving. He's having the best offensive season by a catcher of all time. And you mentioned the defensive numbers as well. So I think it's going to be a very, very close race between those two. Big thanks to those watching live. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. And let's take our first break. When we return, we'll get into the news and notes. We'll do that right after this.
You can't count on Derek's tong skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball Today. News and notes, not too much going on here, but Chase Burns is set to return on Friday, but will initially pitch out of the bullpen. Not much time left in the season. So
yeah.
I don't know if he will make any starts anymore. Obviously, from a Reds real-life perspective, Chase Burns can be an incredible weapon out of the bullpen, but I'm not sure it will matter too much for fantasy.
Yeah, and I don't, just in case somebody's out there thinking this, I don't imagine it'll change Chase Burns' long-term trajectory. I think it was simply a matter of we don't want to take the time to stretch him out with so little of the calendar left. We'd rather just get whatever he can give us. Maybe it helps push us into the postseason, and then we'll start fresh with Chase Burns in the rotation next year.
Well, all of a sudden, Scott, I don't know if you have seen the NL wildcard race, but the Reds and Giants are just 1.5 games behind the New York Mets for the final wildcard spot. So
Yep.
we've got a little over 2 weeks left to play, and the Diamondbacks are 3 games out too. So, and the Mets are just kind of free falling right now. It is as crazy as Juan Soto has been in the second half. I don't know what has gone wrong with the New York Mets. It's been a crazy season for them. The Giants plan to have Logan Webb and Robbie Ray pitch on 4 days rest against the Dodgers this weekend. So, look, I don't exactly love that as someone who has both Robbie Ray and Logan Webb rostered in multiple leagues because A, it's on short rest, and B, it's against the Dodgers. Robbie Ray has kind of had a rough second half too. I was looking into some numbers on him, but we'll see. Hopefully it goes well. If they're locked in for you, they're locked in. Hope for the best. Joe Adele was scratched Thursday with vertigo. He missed 2 games earlier this week as well, so something to watch with him. Turns out Anthony Volpe has been playing through a partial labrum tear in his left shoulder. He got a cortisone shot to kind of help with inflammation there. Maybe I'm just too close to the situation, Scott, but the Yankees' mishandling of injuries, it just seems criminal to me, right? So Volpe hurt his shoulder on a diving attempt back in May. And at the time I saw the play, he was down on the ground. He was writhing in pain. That he just got up and they kind of popped it back into place or whatever. And he stayed in the game and he played the next day. It's like, okay, I thought he was out for the season the way, he was kind of rolling around and stuff. And it turns out he's been dealing with this injury since then. And they never put him on the IL. They've rarely given him any days off. It's very weird. And then a couple of years ago, they had the whole Anthony Rizzo situation where he was playing through concussion symptoms for like months. So it's not great the way that they've handled injuries. And as just the eternal pessimist, I would not be surprised if Aaron Judge needs surgery after the season or something crazy like that. I just would not surprise me.
All right. But I mean, it makes sense that that's a case where it would make sense to delay it because obviously they're playing for something right now and he's performing well enough. He just had a 2-homer game. Right? You wouldn't disagree with that, would you?
No. They've got to go for it. So I just wonder how long until, maybe it's kind of a Bryce Harper situation, like just kind of move Judge over to first base. I kind of feel like that's a pretty natural transition for somebody as big as him, but we'll see. Getting back to Volpe for a second, if he does have to go on the IL or misses time here to end the season, I think Jose Caballero would make for an interesting play the final few weeks. He went 2 for 3 with a walk, run, RBI, and 2 steals in this game alone. He's up to 45 steals on the season. Obviously has a bunch of upside in that department. 43% rostered, has second, third, shortstop, and outfield eligibility. They haven't said that they're going to put Volpe on the IL, but just something to watch because I think Caballero can kind of be a needle mover this late if you do need steals in a roto league or category league, whatever it might be. Logan O'Hoppe is expected to return to the Angels lineup during the upcoming series at the Brewers. Chase Dolander will be placed in the IL with a knee injury. Tomoyuki Sugano has been cleared to start Saturday against the Blue Jays. He left his previous start after taking a comebacker off of his right foot. Walker Buehler will make his Phillies debut Friday against the Royals. And Reed Detmers was placed in the IL with left elbow inflammation. Got a couple waiver wire names here, Scott, I want to quickly ask you about. Chandler Simpson, nice game here, 4 for 4 with his 40th stolen base. He almost has more steals than runs scored, which seems impossible. 292, 0 homers. He has 14 extra base hits on the season. Just a very unique player is Chandler Simpson. 61% rostered. That number feels right to me. I don't know. I don't know that he has to be a must roster player in a points league.
No, he's I'm getting the updated number now for Chandler Simpson. So it doesn't include this latest 4-hit game with the stolen base, but entering it, Chandler Simpson was at 2.64 head-to-head points per game.
That's pretty fringy.
It's been higher before, but yeah, that's like Miguel Vargas. Andy Pajes has slowed down to the point that he's close to 2.64, but he's still a little better than that for the season. So that's the range we're talking about for Chandler Simpson. And I could see how, depending on the build, he could be more harm than good in a roto league too. I mean, if you've got steals well covered, he's providing 0 power, 0 RBI potential. Sounds like he's not even that impressive for runs based on the number you gave. I don't know if that's just he's stealing so many bases that it's outpacing the runs, or if he's not scoring that many runs. I guess I could check that real quick.
45 runs in 96 games. So that's still
not that impressive.
Days.
Not that impressive. So he's kind of just a 2-category guy, and you might need those other categories more. And so obviously it would be a detriment to have Simpson in your lineup, even in a roto context.
Next up, Dylan Dingler has quietly had a solid season here. 2 for 4 with his 13th home run. He's hitting .282. He has a .769 OPS, 35% rostered. He's not a standout just because the position is so loaded now at catcher, but he has just settled in as a serviceable second catcher in 2-catcher leagues. And I think he'll be that again next year. There might even be a little bit more upside for more, because I saw his expected numbers for the second half. Dylan Dingler, 326 XBA, 507 X slug. Really, really good numbers there. So
in the second half, I mean, even for the year, it's a 298 XBA. That's 97th percentile. Yeah, Dylan Dingler is a player I felt like we've never seen fit to talk about, just because there are so many other catchers. Yet in a typical season, given the typical distribution of talent at that position, Dylan Dingler would be a noteworthy breakout this year.
Yeah,
has really flown under the radar, but he is solid at a rare point in fantasy baseball history where solid isn't nearly good enough at catcher.
I think next year will be the year that we finally, we've said it so many years, right? Where, this is the year where catcher is going to be a good position. It really feels like it's going to come true. I mean, it already is, but
yeah, this year it has. I think next year
it's only going to get better, right? If we get a full season from Samuel Basayo, it should be, right? So.
Right. I mean, it is a position second only to pitcher. Pitcher, it seems kind of unfair to count it as one position because it's so big, but second only to pitcher. Catcher is the position most susceptible to injury, and so you have to factor in a certain amount of attrition that's going to take place there. But there's so much surplus even beyond the standouts this year that I think in one catcher leagues you can, maybe it'll be worth paying up to a certain degree for Cal Raleigh. Maybe even William Contreras, certainly in a points league. But beyond that, I think you take whatever's left. Take your favorite of whatever's left, because there's going to be some high upside players at the end of drafts next year.
2 names in deeper leagues. Chase Mydrov has been solid lately. Last 20 games, he's hitting .347, but not with much else. 1 homer, 11 runs scored, 2 steals during that time. And Otto Kemp is making some noise here in Alec Boehm's place. 2 for 4 with his 6th homer, 3 RBI. And last 3 games, he has 5 hits, 2 homers, 5 RBI, 1 steal. And the minor league numbers were great this season. The exit velocities are very impressive for Otto Kemp. I wonder if we can get a Wally Pipp situation here for Otto Kemp over Alec Boehm, just because Boehm has been pedestrian for many years. He's been rock solid, but he's been worse this year. And obviously Otto Kemp has looked really good lately. So 2 very deep league names, Scott, but do they stand out at all? Chase Mydrov, Otto Kemp?
Probably not. I'm not saying there isn't talent there. Just is it going to make enough of a dent to make them worthwhile in fantasy? And in the case of Otto Kemp, I don't think there's enough time for him to establish himself as someone who deserves to start over Alec Boehm. Boehm's going to be back before the end of the regular season, and then obviously into the playoffs. I think the Phillies are going to trust him over Kemp. Mydrov might have more real life upside than fantasy upside, because of his ability to work the count, to take walks. That's a bit more valuable real life skill than fantasy skill. I'm not sure there's enough power, and the speed is pretty fringy. for him to amount to much in fantasy outside of deeper leagues.
Waiver wire pitchers, anything to see here for next week? First up, we have Ian Seymour, who was okay at the White Sox, 5 1/3 innings, 3 runs with 5 strikeouts, 12 whiffs on 90 pitches. I know he's been solid, 4 starts since joining the rotation, 2.33 ERA, 109 whip. Numbers a little bit misleading because he had a lot of unearned runs scored against him during that time. But the underlying skills here are very, very interesting for Ian Seymour, and he lines up as a 2-start pitcher next week. The matchups are tough, the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. What do you think about that, Scott?
I think in head-to-head points leagues, you could risk it. Now, he hasn't been working that deep into games, and obviously that matters in head-to-head points leagues. So it's not like he's automatic even there, particularly with those tough matchups. But he might just be good enough to overcome them. He's been missing bats at like a 14% clip during his time in the minors. And by the way, during his time in the majors, I should say. By the way, he was even better in the minors with that swinging strike rate. Never got a lot of attention, Ian Seymour, in prospect circles because he didn't throw particularly hard. Just an unconventional pitching prospect, but it really reminds me of Joe Ryan when he first came up, also in the Rays organization. And Ryan's kind of become a different pitcher in the years since. He's started to throw harder, started to mix in more pitches. But just from the perspective of guy was dominating in the minors, particularly in the strikeout category, and yet did not get much love as a prospect. Seymour the same way. I think he's plenty usable with 2 starts. Wish he'd work a little deeper into games, but there's a lot to like here.
All right. I am following along with this Angels and Mariners game. It's still going. It's a pretty crazy one here. The Angels have taken the lead in both the 11th and the 12th innings, and then the Mariners have came back to tie it both times. So that game's still going. We'll see if they can walk it off. I'll keep everybody updated. Well, if you're listening to this tomorrow, you already know what happened. Shane Smith blanked the Rays on the other side, 5 2/3 shutout innings with 4 strikeouts. He had 13 whiffs on 98 pitches and an 8 starts since returning, a 2.84 ERA, a 0.95 whip. And he gets the Orioles next week for 1 start. He's also RP eligible. Do you think there's any usability for Shane Smith next week?
I think he's been reliable enough since returning. And that matchup it's decent against the Orioles. You could consider using him. He's not on my sleeper pitchers for next year or for next week. I said that before, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. Yep. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm sorry. I can't speak. Anyway, Shane Smith. I think I like mixing in more sinkers since he returned seems to have helped. It's made his 4-seamer more effective. He's been getting more whiffs with it. I don't know how deep we want to go into the breakdown there, but like he's made some changes. He's getting more consistent results. I think he's still an interesting pitching talent, but only so usable here still in his rookie season on the White Sox. Not working deep into games with great consistency. It puts a limit on how usable he is, but he is usable.
All right, next up, Johan Oviedo fell 1 out short of a quality start at the Orioles, 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts here, had 14 whiffs on 85 pitches. The fastball was great in this one and actually had 2 more inches of IVB than usual for Johan Oviedo. He gets the Cubs next week. You know, their lineup has not been great in the second half. I think it's more of a deep league play, Scott, but what do you think about Johan Oviedo?
Yeah, I see something to work with here. And it's not the first time I felt this way about Oviedo. He has, prior to Tommy John surgery, he was making some noise with his ability to miss bats. And it's 3 pitches that he's capable of getting whiffs with. Obviously, the fastball was the standout in this one with the added induced vertical break. But the curveball has been the standout pitch this year. The slider's always earned good marks. I think Johan Oviedo might amount to something. but he's in a similar situation to Shane Smith, where it's a bad team. He's generally going 5 innings at a time. And even compared to Smith, it's not like Oviedo has repeated it enough times for me to fully trust it. I just think there are some encouraging signs.
And the Mariners just ended the game. They walked it off on a sac fly by pinch hitter Harry Ford. First career RBI, first career walk-off for him. So how about that? Next up, we have Cade Povich, who also fell 1 out short of a quality start facing the Pirates. 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, 16 whiffs on 93 pitches. Changed up the pitch mix in this one. He really leaned on his curveball and changeup, and both of them are actually great in this start. Obviously, a good matchup against the Pirates. He's at the White Sox next week. I don't think that I can, with any confidence, recommend Cade Povich to people, but it's a good matchup, and he looked good here. But yeah, I think it's too late in the season.
Yeah, too late in the season for him to gain our trust, I would say. And he has a long way to go to do that anyway, which is why it's too late in the season. And he is part of a 6-man rotation right now. They had to skip Dean Kramer for his last term, but he's supposed to be back in the middle of next week. So it's not even clear Povich will remain in the rotation to finish out the season, since they may decide they don't need to go 6-man anymore. But he is a former prospect, obviously. He has a deep enough arsenal that it wouldn't surprise me if he found the right sequence to make this work. It's just this one start against the Pirates, no less, isn't enough to really move the needle.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we have Steven Kolek, who has been pitching well for the Royals. He was at the Guardians here, 6 2/3 innings, 1 run with 4 strikeouts, does not generate any whiffs, but gets a lot of ground balls, and has a quality start in all 3 outings with the Royals, a 1.83 ERA, a .76 whip. He gets the Mariners next week, also a SPARP, but I mean, I don't really trust it, but he has been pitching well. Any thoughts on Steven Kolek?
Yeah, sometimes ground ball guys like this, particularly if they're throwing strikes, not hurting themselves with walks, they can go on a run like where they're getting quality starts with regularity. But you don't want to be there for it when it goes wrong, because they can't get strikeouts. So when it goes wrong, it tends to go really wrong, like we've seen with Andre Palante this year. It's a similar sort of profile here for Steven Kolek. So yeah, I wouldn't be particularly motivated to use them outside of like an AL only league.
And then the last name is Randy Vasquez. And he was facing the Rockies, and he was great. 6 shutout innings with 9 strikeouts, but I just don't think he's very good. So I don't think this matters at all, Scott. Randy Vasquez.
Yeah, I think it was just he got the Rockies away from Coors Field, and we don't need to look any deeper into it than that.
All right, let's take our final break. When we return, welcome back to 2 pitchers, Mackenzie Gore and Ryan Weathers. They both look solid. We'll talk about that right after this.
Hi. Novocaine?
Novocaine!
Novocaine is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
You're gonna love this. Oh, you're strong!
It's wildly entertaining and an absolute blast.
I'm in.
Novocaine, rated R, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back to these 2 pitchers.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Shout out to Adam Azer. He either used to sing that or play that sound drop at some point, right? Am I making that
I think
up?
he used to sing it.
Okay.
Adam Azer.
I'm not the
loves to
singer.
sing.
Adam's
Would
the
love
singer.
to sing.
I'm not. You want to hear Adam sing? Go listen to the
Welcome
fantasy
back.
football podcast. But yeah. I don't. Singing's not really for me. We do have 2 pitching returns here. Mackenzie Gore, solid at the Marlins, 5 innings, 2 runs, 11 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts, but had 11 whiffs on 78 pitches. He gets the Braves next week, a team that has the worst WOBA as a team over the last 14 days. So if you held on to Mackenzie Gore, Scott, is there any chance that you're using him in the second to last week of the season?
Yeah, that Braves offense was rolling there in August, but it's really cooled off here in September. So I think it's fine to use him against the Braves. Not must start. I mean, obviously he showed a lot of vulnerability before landing on the IL with the shoulder injury, which is why his ERA and WHIP are as high as they are. He crashed pretty hard, but he looked solid here in his return. Looked healthy. Velocity was good. Missed plenty of bats with the fastball. Kept the walks in check through 64% strikes. It was good enough that I think it's fine if you want to use Gore against the Braves, but less than must start.
All right, and on the other side, Ryan Weathers looked pretty good in his return. No James Wood, no Josh Bell in the lineup, so that might have helped out a little bit. But 5 shutout innings here, 5 hits, 0 walks, 4 strikeouts, 13 whiffs on just 68 pitches here. The changeup and sweeper looked great. He threw both of those pitches a little bit more. The velocity looked fine coming back from that lat injury. And the problem here is he's at the Rockies next week. So good return, but in Coors Field, I don't think so.
No, I wouldn't do it. I think we're kind of just scouting Ryan Weathers for next year at this point. And we could take a peek ahead and see who the Marlins are facing the final week that maybe he would line up against if your league happens to use that final week of the season. Phillies and Mets are who the Marlins are facing. So we're probably just scouting Ryan Weathers for next year.
That sounds right.
But a nice return. He wasn't throwing his fastball quite as hard as before he got hurt. He averaged 96.5 when it was 97.2 previously. 96.5 is still higher than the rest of his career. So I think we should be pretty encouraged by this return for Ryan Weathers.
Starters sit these pitchers for next week. Cam Schlittler. He bounced back with a strong outing against the Tigers. 6 innings, 1 hit, 7 strikeouts. He, not 1 hit, 1 run allowed, 7 strikeouts, 13 whiffs on 95 pitches. That fastball continues to play really well here for Cam Schlittler, who has a quality start in 4 of his last 5. He has 7+ strikeouts in 4 of his last 5. And he is, I think, at the Twins and at the Orioles next week. Only 50% started. If he legitimately does make those 2 starts, Scott, I feel pretty good about getting Cam Schlittler in there.
I mean, just saying he has a quality start in 4 of his last 5 kind of undersells it because it's 1 earned run or less.
Yeah.
So he's been phenomenal apart from that 1 misstep last time out. And lining up for 2 starts. Pretty good matchups. Minnesota and Baltimore. I have him just outside the must-start tier of the 2-start pitcher rankings. Maybe I should have him inside it. I can't imagine sitting Cam Schlittler anywhere where I'm rostering him.
Next up, we have Gavin Williams, who turned in a quality start against the Royals. 6 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts. Did have 3 more walks, but 13 whiffs on 105 pitches. He also allowed 10 hard hits in this game, so perhaps a little fortunate to come away with a solid outing here. And the numbers don't lie. I'm just going to tell you what they say. Last 12 starts for Gavin Williams, it's a 2.30 ERA and a 1.08 whip. It also comes with a BABIP in the low 200s and a 94% left on base percentage. So I don't trust it, but he's doing it. Gavin Williams is doing it. He is at the Tigers next week. What do you think about that matchup for him?
I think I would not be eager to start Gavin Williams. Yeah, I haven't been quite as dismissive of this stretch he's been on as Chris has, and Chris feels very strongly about it. So, he has much stronger feelings than mine. Mine are more tepid. So I haven't really seen fit to challenge him on it, but. During this 10-start stretch with a 2.28 ERA, 106 whip, 8.6 K per 9 for Gavin Williams, which are obviously solid numbers. Maybe you wish there was more strikeouts. He's kind of making up for it with more ground balls than we're used to seeing from him, a 50% ground ball rate during this 10-start stretch. It still doesn't explain the BABIP being so low. You'd think the BABIP would be a lot a little bit higher, getting more ground balls. But he is a very talented pitcher. He does have, the breaking balls are still pretty impressive for Gavin Williams. If the strikeouts were a little higher or the walks a little lower, I think we'd be a lot more excited about the stretch he's on. And I'm not sure it's worth. I guess I feel like we might be being a little nitpicky with it, given the amount of talent he has. But we'll see. I mean, it could come crashing down. I'm not, like I said, this is not something I have a great amount of confidence in. I'm just not willing to totally dismiss the stretch Gavin Williams is on.
I agree with you that the talent is there. The pedigree was there for Gavin Williams. We were excited about him coming into the season. He looked good in spring training. Even during this 12-start stretch, he has 30 walks over 70 and a third innings. And on the season, 4.5 walks per 9. It also comes with a 460 FIP and a 425 xFIP. So I think he's been a little bit fortunate, maybe a lot of bit fortunate during this 12-start stretch, but he's getting it done. He made one start earlier against the Tigers where he went 6 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts. So I don't think it's the worst start. If you have Gavin Williams, I think it's okay to use him at the Tigers next week. I wanted to get to this yesterday. We didn't have time, but I wanted to just ask you quick thought on it because I've received a few questions about this. The Rays are headed back to Tropicana Field next season, or at least that's what we think as of now. Mm-hmm. And Yandy Diaz and Junior Caminero are 2 names that stood out to me because Yandy Diaz is having this big power year. He's got 23 home runs. A lot of his homers have gone to the opposite field. Clearly likes playing in George M. Steinbrenner Field. 17 of his 23 homers have been at home this year, and he is slugging .511 in that ballpark. Junior Caminero, on the other hand, 42 home runs on the season. The home run splits are fine. 22 homers at home, 20 on the road. But you look at his actual batting average and OPS, huge difference between home and road. So at George Steinbrenner Field for Caminero, 320 batting average, 976 OPS. On the road, 201 with a 699 OPS. So I think more so for Caminero, Yandy Diaz will probably be drafted as a maybe a low-end starting first baseman, corner infield, or something like that. But if we're talking about drafting Caminero as a first or second-round pick, we need to be pretty sure about what we're getting here. And I don't know, this kind of just adds another question, another variable, I guess, in the mix for Junior Caminero.
Yeah. So I would be more worried, I think, if the home run split was more drastic. Because that is the ballpark that the Rays are playing in now. That is what it is more likely to boost. It has the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium. It's being played in a more humid environment where, in theory, the ball carries better. So if Caminero was taking advantage of that, which it sounds like Diaz is, and Diaz obviously doesn't have a great history as a power hitter. Set a career high in home runs already this year. But Junior Caminero, that home run split home and away is more even. I don't see that environment as so much of a BABIP boosting environment where you'd see more balls falling in. And so therefore the batting average is going to be inflated at home. I think it's probably just one of those oddities you see in the splits sometimes, and not something I think is going to be a long-standing issue for Caminero. What adds a wrinkle to that is that Tropicana Field in particular can sometimes affect certain hitters. It can sometimes be detrimental to specific hitters because of it doesn't have the best view for the batter.
Yeah,
doesn't have the best batter's eye. And we've seen hitters complain about it. We've seen Willie Adames most famously struggled all the time there. So what am I trying to say? If Junior Caminero, even he'll probably, just by the law of averages, he'll probably gain some on the road in batting average. But if he loses disproportionately on his home batting average because they're returning to Tropicana Field, then I think it'll be a problem. I'm not especially worried about it. I can't imagine at this point who else should be the second, third baseman taken other than Caminero next year after Jose Ramirez, obviously. So like he's gonna go in round 2 sometime. I don't see any way around it. It's just I think I'd rather be mid to late second round than early second round, and so if people are drafting him early second round, I think there's enough reason for skepticism there that it won't be me. And
we just don't have a big sample of Junior Caminero playing in Tropicana. He only has 19 career games there, triple slash of 260, 349, 397. So that's just a 747 OPS. It also was very early in his career, so keep that in mind. I don't want to doubt the talent, but this makes me a little bit more nervous about Caminero for next year. Let's, see where ADP and everything kind of settles in for him. But my guess is, look, you have a season this good, this young, he probably will be a fringe first round pick or somewhere in the second round for Junior Caminero next season. All right, Scott, are you ready for Scotty Doesn't Know?
Let's do it.
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
All right, up first, I have the lowest OPS among qualified catchers in the second half. Mind you, there's only 12 qualified catchers on Fangraphs in the second half of the season. So you have a 1 in 12 chance, at least based on those names there, of getting it right, Scott. So lowest OPS among qualified catchers in the second half.
So it's got to be a guy who's gotten a lot of at-bats.
That's true.
I know this guy's been cold. Is it Agustin Ramirez?
Scotty does know.
Yes, I know something.
Oh my gosh. It is Agustin Ramirez. So I wanted to just quell any fears, I guess, going into next season, because people will look at the second half and say, oh, he's hitting 207 with a, 609 OPS. Still has 5 homers, still has 11 steals in the second half from the catcher position. That is amazing. And a 19% strikeout rate, that's not prohibitive. Exit velocities have come down a little bit. It's 89.1 miles per hour. The biggest thing is lots of infield fly balls. The ground ball rate's a little bit high. 236 BABIP. All the underlying plate discipline stuff looks really, really good in the second half. I think this is just a young player going through a bit of a slump here. It does not worry me one bit for being excited or projecting forward Agustin Ramirez for next season.
I think he will for sure be a top 12 catcher for me next year. He's honestly, for as hard as he hits the ball, for him to be striking out less than 20% of the time as a rookie is it's kind of a miracle. And you see in the expected stats, they look a lot better. Like his expected batting average is 270. So it's just the finer points of getting the right angles off the bat, I think. Not that is nothing, but that is something that we often see rookie hitters have to improve upon, and many times they do.
That was great, though, Scott. Look at that. First name coming out here, and boom, you get it right on the nose.
I think that's the first time I've ever gotten the first one.
All right, next up, over the last 30 days, I have the best expected ERA among qualified starting pitchers. So xERA on StatCast, the best over the past 30 days.
Way too many pitchers to choose from. Way too many. Let's go with... It's probably somebody surprising, right? Not somebody who's been amazing.
I'm ready to press the button.
I'm going to say Brian Wu.
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
The answer is Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who has a 167 xERA over the last 30 days. The next closest is Freddie Peralta at 225. So it's not really close at all. Yamamoto has been amazing. And the more I think about it, I know we spent a lot of time the other day talking about, who's in the mix for SP4. I know we kind of mentioned Yamamoto in passing. We all kind of settled on all right, Chris Sale or Logan Gilbert. I think Yamamoto deserves more. I think he is in that mix. The one thing that holds him back is just volume. He has 155 in the third innings this year. That's 37th in baseball. So that does hold him back a little bit. But man, what he lacks in just pure strikeout whiff stuff that other aces have, he makes up for in ground balls, and the fact that, he pitches for one of the best teams in baseball, so the win should be there too. So I really do think Yamamoto is firmly in that mix to be drafted.
Yeah, I agree. And he's over 10K per 9, so I don't want to undersell the strikeout ability.
Right.
And the reason why he's lacking in volume, I kind of danced around this last time we talked about it, but to zero in on it, the reason why Yamamoto is lacking in volume is because the Dodgers are so often going 6-man. And they're probably going to continue to do that with Ohtani in the rotation from the very start next year. It's really for his sake.
Yeah.
Why they're going 6-man. But if a pitcher's going to lose innings, I would rather it be that way than because he's pitching 5 innings every time out. Because that really
or just missing time, right? So
right,
if this helps keep Yamamoto healthy too, if he gives me 170 innings of being a top 5 pitcher, yeah, okay, I'll sign up for that right now.
6 of Yamamoto's last 11 starts, so more than half of them have been 7 innings or more.
Yeah.
So his starts are highly impactful. They're just spaced apart more.
All right, last one here. In the second half, I lead all qualified relief pitchers in K- walk rate, and it's not close.
All qualifying relief pitchers in K- walk rate in the second half. Relief pitchers, so not closers. Relief pitchers.
Relief pitchers.
Ooh.
I mean, there's an infinite amount of names to choose from, but
I'm
pretty sure you know who the best relievers are, Scott.
I think I know who it is, though.
Uh-oh.
I think it's Mason Miller.
Wow. 2 for 3.
Yeah.
Scotty does know. Scotty
Look
does
at me
know.
go.
So I wanted to talk about Mason Miller because I really think the Padres are going to transition him back into a starter this offseason, whether or not it's going to work, whether or not it's the smart thing to do. I don't see any other reason why they would give up a top 3 prospect in all of baseball for Mason Miller, other than transition him back into being a starter.
Because he might be the best reliever in baseball moving forward, and because he has several years of team control left, and because did you see the relief pitcher market at the trade deadline? He was obviously the best and demanded the biggest.
To give up Leo DeVries for a reliever, look, they've had success doing it in the past. They did it with Seth Lugo, and he pitched very well. Obviously, they have Michael King on their team. They didn't do it, but the Yankees did it. So that's another pitcher that, they've kind of seen from afar that it can work. I really think that they're going to try it. I think they're going to try Mason Miller.
Well, remember why it happened is Mason Miller couldn't stay healthy as a starter.
That's true.
He couldn't get even to like 75 innings as a starter. Let me double check that to make sure I'm not exaggerating. Yeah,
65 innings, something like that.
Yeah. He really couldn't. Man, he couldn't even get to 20 innings his first couple years in the minors. So he couldn't stay healthy as a starter. I don't know. Maybe they'll try it, but keep in mind also Robert Suarez is probably gone. He does have an option.
Fair.
He has 2 options, one for 26 and one for 27. But it's only $8 million a year, and you imagine he'd get more than that on the free agent market. So,
right.
I mean, they may have been thinking ahead. Okay, Suarez is going to walk. Let's
that is a possibility.
Replacement closer ready. I'm predicting Mason Miller will transition back to a closing role next year, but it certainly would be interesting if he returned to being a starter because that upside would be significant either way.
Yeah, I do want to just quickly see. Jeremiah Estrada is under team control, and he is having another very good season as well. So, I mean, he's just another option. If they wanted to try Mason Miller as a starter, they could maybe just put Jeremiah Estrada as the closer or something like that. Adrian Morejon has had a great season as well. So they have options. They do have options there. But I think that they're going to try and put Mason Miller back as a starter, and we'll find out more in the offseason. Man, Scott, you crushed it, man. Scotty does know. 2 out of 3. Look at you. That is awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate the recognition.
Let's wrap up with the Week 26 preview. First up, we have the schedule. 18 teams with 6 games. We have 12 teams with 7 games next week. The Braves, Orioles, Cubs, Reds, Guardians, Dodgers, Twins, Yankees, Giants, Rays, Blue Jays, and Nationals. What about the Rockies? They have 6 home games next week, 3 against the Marlins and 3 against the Angels. Let's get into 2-star pitchers. Starter, sit. Jack Leiter is at the Astros and home against the Marlins.
So he had a great 3-start stretch and then kind of a clunker last time out. But those matchups are pretty good, Astros and Marlins. And I like things he's been doing with his pitch selection lately. I think in most cases, Jack Leiter is going to be someone you want to start.
All right, next up, we have Zach Gallen, who faces the Giants and Phillies. He pitches for the Diamondbacks.
He does. Giants, pretty good matchup. Phillies, terrible matchup. But Gallen's been on a nice run lately, giving quality starts with regularity. I think in points leagues, you could consider using him.
Good old Jackie boy. Jack Flaherty against the Guardians and the Braves.
Yeah, I decided I could justify it in a points league because the Braves offenses, like I said, struggled over the last couple weeks after a very hot August, and obviously Guardians, one of the best matchups you could get for a pitcher. 3 of Flaherty's last 5 starts have been very good. It's just the other 2 have been terrible. So I think in points leagues where you can withstand the terrible starts a little better than categories, it's probably fine to use Flaherty.
His nationally counterpart, the mustache-less Spencer Strider, is at the Nationals and at the Tigers. But I feel like he's been listed as a 2-star pitcher for 3 weeks in a row. So I don't know.
It's true. It's true. He keeps making the list here, and then something happens to bump him back a day. So maybe it'll happen again. I think either way, points leagues is the only place you'd consider it. There were some good signs in his last start, but not like he was back to being peak Strider. How could he be without the mustache, honestly?
Yeah, I would bench him just for that. You can't get rid of the mustache. Jose Barrios at the Rays and at the Royals.
Points leagues, it's probably okay.
He's been bad.
He's been better lately. His last 3 starts have been good.
Okay, I made that up then. He was really bad before that.
He was really bad before that.
Yeah. Yuri Perez is at the Rockies and at the Rangers.
I think I'd pass. If the first start wasn't at Coors Field, maybe I could see doing it in a points league at least. But because it is, I just think there's too much downside risk for Yuri Perez this week.
Jose Quintana against the Angels and at the Cardinals.
I don't mind that in points leagues, though his results haven't been as good lately. Pretty good matchups there.
Jason Alexander against the Rangers and Mariners.
If you're really, really aching for volume in a points league, it's justifiable. I don't really buy into the pitcher, though.
Man, next week is crazy for the AL West and wild card race. You have the Astros facing the Mariners and the Rangers in the same week, so that can just decide so much for the rest of the season. That is, stressful times for everybody involved. 2-star pitchers to add and stream for next week. Scott, who you got?
Got a few names for you here. Kyle Bradish, even with me lowering the threshold to 75%, he still qualifies for this somehow. I don't know why people have been so slow to flock back to him. He had a really good track record prior to his injury, and he's been great since returning. Even the one not so good start of the 3 was still pretty good under the surface. So,
and he's only 41% rostered on Yahoo too.
Yeah, his matchups, he gets the White Sox for his first turn, then he gets the Yankees for his second turn, which isn't as great, but I think he's good enough that I really don't care what the matchups are. 2-start week, Kyle Bradish, you're starting him. Jeffrey Springs, he's got the bipolar matchup situation here too, at Boston for his first start, but then at Pittsburgh for his second. So probably just a points league play, but a more attractive points league play than like some of those others we mentioned earlier, Jose Barrios and Jose Quintana and Jason Alexander. I'd rather have Jeffrey Springs. Connolly early. in theory, he lines up for 2 starts. I know the Red Sox have been non-committal about when he'll start next, but I don't really see what their alternative is. I think he's got to go Monday, or excuse me, Tuesday. They don't play on Monday, which would line Connolly early up for 2 starts. Athletics and Rays, so the matchups could be better. Probably would only consider in a points league. It's just the 1 start, obviously. So he still has a lot to prove, but he looked good. Look good in the minors. Connolly early. Zach Littell gets the Cardinals and Cubs, which don't sound like good matchups, but they actually kind of are. Cardinals rank in the bottom half in offense, and the Cubs have been sinking like a rock. They're barely inside the top 10 now in runs scored when they were first or second for much of the year. And Littell tends to work deep into games, get a lot of quality starts. Ian Seymour, we talked about him earlier, Blue Jays, Red Sox. Not the greatest matchups, which is why I would only consider it in a points league. Jamison Tyone gets the Pirates, which you love, and the Reds. He's only a few starts back from the IL, but he's logged. He's throwing enough pitches that you expect him to work deep into games, maybe give you a couple quality starts. And finally, Joey Cantillo, surprisingly reliable of late. He's at Detroit and at Minnesota. 2 pretty good matchups there.
What about the 1-start streamers? You have 3 names on the list.
Luis Morales gets the Pirates, so I think we put our trust back in him. Parker Messick gets the Twins, who are especially bad against left-handers. I don't actually know where they rank against left-handers, but I know a lot of their hitters are bad against left-handers, so it stands to reason they wouldn't rank very high. And then finally, Tyler Wells gets the White Sox. We talked about him. Not as favorable matchup as the Pirates, who he came through in a big way against this current week, but still a good matchup. So I think you could use Tyler Wells again.
And I know we brought up Bryce Miller earlier. I don't think that I would use him over any of these sleeper pitchers that you have listed here.
Yeah, against the Royals.
Yeah, I mean, the Royals is a good matchup. Maybe like him and Tyler Wells are kind of both right on that fringe. But I mean, Wells has looked pretty good.
The 2 start options that rank behind Wells. Ian Seymour with the 2 bad matchups. Jamison Tyone. One of the matchups is Pittsburgh, and then Joey Cantillo.
Yeah.
One of the matchups is Minnesota. Would you take a 1-star Bryce Miller over those 3?
I like Cantillo, man. I'm interested with what he's doing. He's pitched really well the 2-start week. Tyone's a little bit tougher because that 2nd start is at the Reds, and when he gets hit hard, he can give up a lot of home runs and stuff. So that does scare me a little bit. Seymour's matchups are not good, but I like the stuff. I'm interested in him. So I don't think I would take Bryce Miller.
It's one of those situations where I only get 1 list of sleeper pitchers, right? But I would start Bryce Miller against the Royals over a 2-start Jamison Tyone in a roto league if it came to that. Like if I had to distinguish format, if I had the ability to do that here. Not that I'm thrilled to start Bryce Miller in a roto league, but I'd rather do it than a 2-star Jamison Tyone. And what else was I going to say? I don't remember. Oh, you know what? Part of it is Bryce Miller barely meets the threshold where he qualifies for this list at 74%.
Yeah.
And so when it's somebody who's not that available and I'm on the fringe, I'm on the fence about including him, it's like, I'd rather highlight guys who are more widely available since it's not obvious that he needs to be started anyway.
I agree. Best hitter matchups for next week: the Reds, Braves, Rockies, Marlins, and D-backs. The worst hitter matchups: Astros, Royals, Dodgers, Cubs, and Cardinals. Who are the sleeper hitters for week 26?
Mentioned the Reds at the top of that list. So love Austin Hayes, who's been hitting well again. Yankees just missed. Yankees are one of the teams with 7 games. The matchups are pretty good. So I think Giancarlo Stanton, especially now that Aaron Judge is playing some outfield again. He has had a rough stretch here, Stan, apart from the home run Thursday. His last 12 games batting 100 with a 41% strikeout rate.
He's swinging at everything.
But matchups are good. He gives a lot of power. What do you want? It's a sleeper hitter. Let's see here. So the Braves have the second best matchups. Drake Baldwin looks like as close to an everyday player as a catcher can get moving forward. So I think he's an easy call. Rockies are at home for all 6 of their games, which is good news for Brenton Doyle, who's been much better in the second half anyway. Ezekiel Tovar is batting like 360 at home. So it's a good week to give him a look. The Guardians don't have especially good matchups, but 7 games, 6 against righties. Kyle Manzardo's been hot. I think he's a fine play. Jake Berger's been great. Just had the 2-homer game Wednesday in the Rangers. Just missed being in the top 5 hitter matchups. Wensiel Perez of the Tigers. Good matchups. 3 of the 6 games are against lefties. He's batting about 330 against lefties. So I like Perez for this week. Andrew Vaughn has started to pick things up again, and we have yet to see Rhys Hoskins start over him. So I don't think that's a major concern. Good matchups for Brewers, so he's in. And the Marlins are one of the 2 teams visiting the Rockies at Coors Field this week. Otto Lopez is available enough to mention here, and he's been performing well at the plate lately. So I think he makes for a fine play.
All right, let's wrap up with some leftovers here. And on the hitting side, Jackson Holliday has been hitting better as of late. He went 2 for 4 with his 16th steal. Last 12 games, hitting .378 with 2 homers, 4 steals, and OPS over 1,100 during that time. Vinny P continues his power-filled second half, hit his 30th home run in the second half, 15 homers, 538 slug, 849 OPS for Vinny Pasquantino. And Jackson Merrill, some signs of life here lately. 1 for 3 with his 11th homer. Last 5 games, he has 8 hits, 2 homers, 5 RBIs. So if you made it this far, I'm sure he's in your lineup. Or if he's not, maybe you have a little bit more confidence to get Jackson Merrill in there. One lonely pitching leftover, Jesus Luzardo. He got bombarded early in the start and then really settled down against the Mets. 8 innings, 4 runs, 10 strikeouts, 0 walks. Had 15 whiffs on 97 pitches. And over his last 9 starts, Luzardo has a 2.91 ERA, .92 whip, 64 strikeouts over 55 and 2/3 innings. So,
Yeah, I think he's basically must start.
yeah. You look at his ERA on the season is 4.03. His FIP is 2.90, man. So, that we had that crazy stretch where he was tipping his pitches. And, he really set some people back in ratios. I get that. But everything else has been mostly really, really good here for Jesus Luzardo.
Part of what he's done is, at least last 3 starts, he's kind of led with the sweeper, thrown it over 40% of the time. And that's his best swing and miss pitch. For the year, it's more like 30% usage, but he's been using it more and more and getting a lot of strikeouts. Seems to be working for him. And yeah, like I said, a lot of faith in Jesus Luzardo right now.
The call to the bullpen for the Orioles, Keegan Aiken got the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. He allowed a hit, but picked up his 5th save. For the Marlins, with a 2-run lead, Tyler Phillips tossed 2 scoreless innings across the 6th and 7th. Ronnie Enriquez pitched the 8th. Then the Marlins tacked on 3 more runs, so no longer a save opportunity. It was Michael Peterson who closed it out. For the Guardians, Cade Smith got the 9th with a 1-run lead. He struck out 2 for his 13th save. For the Phillies, Yohan Duran struck out the side for his 29th save. And for the Padres, Robert Suarez struck out 1 for his 37th save. To stream or not to stream on Friday, we have Jonah Tong, who's up against the Rangers, Martin Perez at the Guardians, Brandon Pfaadt at the Twins, Brad Lord against the Pirates, and Justin Verlander against the Dodgers.
Man, we really didn't like this selection, did we?
No. I think Tong is fine, and it's risky, but I would stream almost anybody against the Pirates. Brad Lord has had some okay starts, so I think it could go fine.
Yeah, I agree. If you forced me to name 2, those would be my 2, Tong and Lord. I don't really want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tong hasn't actually had a good start yet, right?
Yeah, and the Rangers' offense actually has been hot lately.
Yeah.
Even with no Seager, and I'm pretty sure they're missing. Oh, it's Semien too, so it's kind of interesting. On Saturday, we have Bubba Chandler at the Nationals, Andrew Alvarez against the Pirates, Brandon Sproat against the Rangers, Charlie Morton at the Marlins, Ryan Bergert at the Phillies, Parker Messick against the White Sox, Bryce Elder against the Astros, and Mitch Farris at the Mariners.
Mm-hmm. So Parker Messick against the White Sox. That's a good one.
Morton at the Marlins maybe could go well, but he's been pitching really bad of late.
Yeah, I'd have to talk myself into any of the others. Messick is the only one I can get behind fully. Brandon Sproat against the Rangers could go okay. It's risky in his second start. He walked a lot in his first, but otherwise looked good. Andrew Alvarez, if you want to go with the theory, anybody against the Pirates is worth starting.
Yeah.
Maybe him.
All right, and then on Sunday, we have Mike Burrows at the Nationals, Cade Cavalli against the Pirates, Jacob Latz at the Mets, Slade Ciccone against the White Sox, Nabil Krismat at the Twins, and Adrian Hauser at the Cubs.
This is a little better, but only a little. Cade Cavalli against the Pirates, I think, is the best of the Nationals pitchers you could start against the Pirates this weekend. I don't know. I mean, Nabil Krismat didn't go well last time.
No.
But he might be my second choice here. Slade Ciccone, even though it's the White Sox, he's just too combustible.
Yeah. No, it's very risky. I agree with you. Cavalli at the top. I think Burrows at the Nationals could be okay. He's pitched all right.
It's just probably going to be a 4-inning start.
That's fair. Yeah.
So what's the point? I don't know. If you're chasing ratios, maybe there's a point.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, you're not going to get a quality start. So just keep that in mind. All right, we're going to wrap there. For Scott, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning into Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again next week. Bye-bye.